Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beyond Limits podcast. I am very excited to have a special guest with us here today, Jordan, founder of Influencer SEO. So, Jordan, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself and let everyone know who you are.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Jordan. I'm the founder of Influencer SEO. We help bloggers, content creators, podcasters, online coaches, digital entrepreneurs, essentially of any kind, grow their online influence using SEO. For those of you that don't know what SEO is, it's basically the process of creating content so that you can show up in the search results like Google, Yahoo, and Bing as answers for searches.
Which is so important. I feel like nowadays we're Googling and searching for the answer. So, if you can come up, that's going to be so important. So, how did you kind of start it? What made you start Influencer SEO? How did you kind of start your journey as a content creator and kind of getting into this space? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I have been in this space since like 2012.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You're an OG.
yeah. It's been a long time. But I actually got my start, funny enough, working with political bloggers. So I built a social political networking slash like debate site. It totally failed. It was my first business. And I thought I was going to change the world. I thought everyone was going to be having these like amazing, thoughtful conversations. I'm sure everyone knows I was completely wrong. And everyone just ended up like yelling at each other for the most part. But I learned so much. I learned about, web design, working with programmers, SEO. So after that business failed, I needed a job. And my sister-in-law, her blog is The Skinny Confidential. She gave me a job working for her. And that's how I got into the like influencer blogger space. And this was like OG days. So think back to like the original bloggers that were doing like reward style and when it first started to really be able to monetize a blog. She was really at that stage, so I was working for her there. I worked for her for a few years and learned like everything A to Z from creating the content, optimizing the post, doing the strategy, photo shoots, working with affiliate programs, working with ad networks, working with sponsored content, so brands and like the contracts and how all that works and flows. So really learning how like that whole side of things of being the actual creator, what that feels like. Worked for her for a few years, and then I, of course, still got the like entrepreneur itch, and I got the idea for influencer SEO because I just felt like the SEO space was so not suited for content creators. It's really suited for like businesses more like the Budweiser type where they have a big budget and they, just need to optimize the website. They're not necessarily the actual creator. So I was like, okay, we need to create a service specifically for these types of creators, these content businesses that are the actual talent. They're kind of like their own little magazines, honestly. So I thought of influencer SEO. My husband helped me a lot. We like brainstormed, and then I decided to spread my wings and fly and launch this business. So that's how I got here. And now we're going into our eighth year of business in February this year. And it feels like it's gone by so fast, but we've worked with over 400 creators now, and I hope it's still just the beginning. I can't wait to see what the future holds.
I love how you've truly been there, like since the beginning. Like, oh, gee, I don't even. Instagram was probably a thing in 2012, but you get what I mean. Like, you've been there throughout all the evolutions. I'm sure the evolution of SEO, like how different it was even 5 years ago compared to now, even visibility online. What would you say is like different, you think, from your perspective about SEO now or visibility online now for content creators and people you work with compared to back in the day?
I think SEO has changed a lot. So it used to be like you could just create something really valuable and you would rank. Now I do think you have to get a little bit more strategic. Just because there's so many more creators online, there's so many more publishers online. So you're competing against a lot more people. So you do need to really think about like, are the keywords or the topics that I'm choosing, the things that I'm writing about, are those things that I can actually compete for? Because you don't want to compete against like the New York Times or really,
Mm.
really established websites every time you create. You want to find those topics that are kind of the hidden gems that people aren't talking about as much, especially when you're just starting out, to really build up your authority so that then you can compete at those bigger levels.
That makes sense. I feel like I've heard the same thing about hashtags. Of like, you want to do like hashtag manifest, which probably has like 10 million posts because as a smaller person, like you're not going to be able to be discovered on a hashtag that's like so big unless you can command, like you said, or whatever word you use in
Uh-huh.
terms of rank for that thing. Is that kind of like the same thing, both like on platforms like Instagram, but also I guess Google wise and all that?
Yes, and as far as, like, the SEO term that they use, it would be long tail keyword instead of a short tail keyword,
Mm.
which that's exactly just like manifestation. That is so broad. So if you were to write a blog post, maybe it's something like how to manifest getting pregnant, or like how to
Mm.
manifest my software as a service business, or like it's something very specific versus, something like you said, manifestation. I think another thing that's changed so much is when we first started, or when I was working for my sister in law, and even when I was working with those political bloggers way back in the day, there wasn't as much social media. So that has
Mm.
really changed a lot too. Like Pinterest was still, in early days, Instagram was early days, and, TikTok didn't even exist.
Mm.
So that has changed the game a lot too, which has been interesting. So yeah, that's another big one. I would say it's changed a lot.
And do you find that like the SEO you'd have to think about like the platforms essentially differently? Like how you're thinking about TikTok should be different than Instagram, should be different than Pinterest because they are different platforms. So would you say that like as a creator someone should be thinking about these platforms differently, or is it kind of like just spread it everywhere you can?
No, you definitely have to think about the different platforms differently. I always say use the tools in your toolbox wisely. You want to use each platform specifically, like what it's best for. So if you're a very visual type of business, so let's say you are a home decor business. Maybe Pinterest is your best spot for discovery because you can optimize your pins, you can, create very beautiful photos, and that's really where people go to look for that kind of thing is Pinterest. But if you are looking for maybe some more informative type of content, you would want like something more like classic. Let's say you're an accountant or something like that. And which is crazy that there's now like accounting influencers. There's influencers for
Right.
everything. But maybe LinkedIn is more of a better place that you would want to put your energy to. Either way, I still always say social media in general, and this is like across the board, all social media platforms are not going to drive as much traffic. Even if you are like focusing on hashtags and keywords and all that stuff, they're not going to drive as much traffic as traditional SEO. So, like, when I say traditional SEO, I mean creating blog posts specifically for ranking on Google, Yahoo, Bing, mostly Google. Let's be real. It's the number one platform. So, mostly ranking on Google search results because Google has the potential to drive like about 1,000% more traffic than all social media combined. So, that's really where you want to be putting your eggs if you want to be growing your audience.
That's so interesting because I would have thought that maybe not like that blog is dead, but that like it kind of like died off. But you're saying that that's actually the biggest place to leverage growth. Can you
Yes.
like dive more into this? Because I feel like you're blowing my mind. I'm like, what?
Yes.
I never would have
Yes.
thought this.
Okay, I
Okay.
want everyone listening to think about this. When you wanna know something, like you really wanna know something, what do? You go to Google.
Yeah.
What's the phrase? You Google it. Everyone wants to find the answers immediately, and Google is currently the only search engine that gives you the immediate answer for what you're looking for. So it's just that habit of like, okay, I need to know something, or I need to find like the place that I'm looking for, or I need to learn how to do something. I'm going to quickly go to Google. So that's why the volume of search is just so high on Google. And then the intention of the user there is actually to engage because they're specifically taking the time out of their day to go and search for that information on Google. Whereas the nature of the person that is going to a social platform, they're usually there to be entertained. So they're usually like boredom scrolling. Maybe they're like waiting for a friend, or, just finished a meeting and have 15 minutes in between. It's not enough time to do something. So they're just getting on social media really quick. They're not necessarily in a position where they're looking for the information that you're creating. So they're less likely to convert. Um, Also, these platforms aren't really designed to get people off platform, where they're more designed to keep people on the platform. So if your goal as a creator is to get people to your own platform, to, whether it be like to read your blog post, to buy your online course, to listen to a podcast, you need to reach them where they're more in a position to convert and in a position where they're likely to do that. And that is search.
Wow. I love this is so interesting. I feel like no one's ever said this. With all like, the growth stuff you see on Instagram, nobody has mentioned that like, hey, did you forget about Google?
I know. And I think that's probably like the number one crusade that I have, is like, I feel like I'm here to like remind people right now, social media, especially short form video, there's so much attention for creators, for business owners, for brands to be creating content. And it just, for the average person, for the average creator, the average business owner, somebody starting out, it's so much time and energy for how little results it really does drive. Like the average conversion rate on social media, I think, is less than 1%. So you're spending all this time and energy into something that has such a low conversion rate. Getting people onto your platform from social media just isn't the same as it used to be. And like I just on my Instagram yesterday, I posted a story. There was a Neil Patel study where basically they studied businesses that went from posting 100% in their business to basically stop posting, and their traffic went all the way down from organic social media. They lost all but 4% of their traffic from social media. So basically, these people stopped posting on social media, and it only impacted their revenue by 4%, which is insane, because you would think that it would impact your revenue so much to lose all of your social media traffic. But it didn't. And I commented on the study because I was like, honestly, I'm sure that the social media people and the content, all of the salaries, all that stuff, I'm sure costed more than that 4%.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy. And that's organic social media specifically. So I'm not talking about like ads. I think that's totally different. But organic social media is not creating the value that people think it is.
So you're basically saying more growth would come if you focused on creating more like long form content. Like, what if someone isn't a writer, right? Because a lot of content creators, people who've become creators, it's very visual, it's quick reels, it's not a lot of words. So, how does someone who perhaps has never written a blog post of like 500 words and it was like, oh my God, how am I going to write a blog post?
Mhm.
Is this where like you like AI for that type of stuff? Like, kind of what would you say, and how do you feel about also like using AI in writing content?
So I would say, if you are a short form video content creator, like if that's what you are, then like this probably doesn't apply to you, because if that's what you want to be doing, that's where you want to build your platform, that's where you want to make your money, then that's where you need to be. That's where you need to build that. That is the business. I'm more speaking to the businesses that are off those platforms. So
Mhm.
podcasters, for example, your business is not in short form video content. Yes, it's great for branding and it's good to put all that out there. But your business is getting people to listen to your podcast so that you can get those listens, get those subscribes, and then when you can get sponsors for your posts or for your show, or sell whatever you're selling in your podcast if you're doing that. And for bloggers, they're making money off of their blog, so they're making money off of ad networks, which is based on page views. So if you're signed up with an ad network, you get paid based on how many page views you get. You also can make money off of affiliate sales. And then same, you can go to brands and say, hey, you know what? I get 1 million sessions per month on my website, so my rate is this. The more page views you have, the more you can charge for brands. Online coaches, same thing. They're trying to get people to their website so that they can get them to buy their online course. So if your goal is like off platform, that's where I would say SEO makes really the big difference,
Mm.
because that's where you're trying to monetize. But the thing is I think the creators that do really, really well are the ones that use, kind of going back to that same concept of using the tools in your toolbox wisely. So you use social media to be social. So you connect with your community there. You're genuinely posting things that you want to create, that you really like creating, that you think your community will like. You're trying to connect with them. You're being creative, you're being vulnerable, you're sharing your life. You're answering DMs, you're answering comments, you're following some of your community as well, strengthening that bond, strengthening that relationship. If you want to, so that's, I guess I would say you use social media to basically make your current community relationship and bond stronger. Whereas if you want to grow outside of your current audience and reach people who don't know who you are yet, that's where you would create blog posts and long form content in a strategic SEO friendly way, because people searching online don't know who you are yet, but they are your target audience because they're searching for what you create. So they're able to find you because you've created that content and it's ranking on a search engine as an answer. So you're basically reaching people that have no idea who you are, but are like the perfect fit for your community.
That makes so much sense. And then also with that longer form like blog content, then they would maybe want to listen to the podcast, and then they would go there if they like the
Mhm.
audio. But
Mhm.
initially to find you, they're basically typing their inquiry into Google, and through optimized SEO, you end up ranking and then they discover you.
Yes. And if you are let's say you are a video creator or a short form video creator and you're like, you know what, I am not getting the traction that I would like to be, because I know it is a little bit harder to grow on organic social media now. You could totally use a blog. And you would have to maybe learn writing. You could use ChatGPT, but we do see that search engine content that is created by an AI does not perform as well as human.
Interesting.
Yes, as human generated content. So, and that could
Wow.
be, the studies on that might be skewed because I think, AI is very new and people were just kind of like flooding it, like write a full blog post for me. I think now they're getting better and they understand that you have to like edit the content a lot and you have to make sure that, you're not just like having these spit out giant blog posts that are maybe inaccurate or, not the best. So we'll see. But I think for now, I would say it's best to create human generated content.
I like that you said that. I'm glad I asked, because I feel like someone could hear this and be like, "Oh, write me a blog post on like feng shui for your house," and then just copy and paste the blog post, and then it's not going to have that same effect, because that could be easy. If someone was like, "Oh, blogging would be hard," I would be like, "Oh, just hop in the chat," and they would write a blog post, and you'd be like good to go. But you're saying
Totally.
no, don't do that. I'm really glad that you said that.
Yeah, we even when we work with clients, we still have like a human optimizer. So an actual person goes in and optimizes the post. We don't write for all of our clients because we work mostly with content creators. So they're accustomed to writing their own posts. But when we do write for clients, we always have a human writer just for that reason. And then we also always run all of the content through a AI detection software, which is a
Mhm.
thing, everyone. So the fact that there's AI detection softwares, that means that Google can definitely detect it. So I think that's why it doesn't perform as well, because search engines are trying to minimize the amount of just like AI generated content in their results.
Yeah, that makes sense, because even Instagram can tell when something's like AI generated, and so of course Google can for like a blog post or anything like that.
We've even seen on Instagram, they have like the little check mark that you have to click if it was like created with AI or whatever. And there's been rumors that in blog content, they might have AI generated content eventually be required to be watermarked as well. So you have to say or disclose that this was generated by AI. Um, so yeah, I will just say take caution with that. And also, as a creator, as like a thought leader, an influencer, you really are kind of like the best at taste. So AIs don't have taste. Like they can't tell if something is good or not, like is this a cute outfit? AI can't really figure that out. Bloggers, content creators, influencers, online coaches, that's what they're the best at, is like, is this a good strategy? Is it not? Does this work? AI is just kind of regurgitating things that are on the internet.
Mm. Okay, that makes sense. So with the podcast, 'cause you also mentioned you do like podcast SEO, is that through, the ranking in Google and like the blog posts, or is podcast SEO a whole different beast?
So, podcast SEO, this is probably one of my favorite topics, because the competitive side of me gets like very, very excited. Podcast SEO, of course, yes, you can do like keywords and all that stuff in your podcast descriptions, in your podcast titles. But the really strategic way to grow a podcast with SEO is to create blog content around the topics of your episodes and then link to your podcasts in those blog posts. Because if you think about it, most podcasters are kind of stuck in that scroll mentality of like each new episode is really pulling all the weight for the promotion of their shows. So like you're not promoting these old shows from the past very often. It's usually just a new episode drops, you promote it, and that's what's driving your listenership. That's what's driving your numbers. If you create SEO friendly blog posts that's linking to your episodes on a regular basis, that means that as those blog posts go out into the internet and rank on Google for the next 2 to 5 years, they'll be driving traffic to your old episodes. So your numbers will get boosted. And therefore, you will be outpacing the growth of anyone that is just relying on that new episode for all of their listeners.
So essentially, if you have a podcast, you should be writing a human generated post that complements it,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily a transcript, correct? Because I
No.
have seen people do like those podcast blog posts that are essentially just transcripts. I'm guessing you mean an actual post and then you link it back. That is going to be a lot more helpful than just relying, like you said, on the single episodes, or just making sure that like you've selected those three categories that you want to select for in the podcast description.
Yes. So the transcript strategy doesn't work, everybody. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it's great as like a here's a new episode if you want to listen to the episode. What I'm more talking about is, let's say you interview. Let me think of an example. Let's say let's just use this as an example. We're
Yeah.
talking about SEO. So let's say this episode goes live. You put on your website, maybe a blog post about like SEO for podcasters. And in that episode or in that blog post, you link to this episode and say, we have a conversation starting at, whatever point about how you can use SEO to grow your podcast. But the actual blog post itself is a bunch of SEO tips for podcasters. So maybe there's a tip in there about the title. Maybe there's a tip in there about like optimizing your show bio. Maybe there's a tip in there about like, how long your description should be and how you should separate your chapters and how you should include a transcript. There's like basically the whole post is informative, but then throughout the post, you're linking to this episode for the specific moments that you're calling those things out, or maybe even other resources as well. So that could be one blog post. Maybe another blog post would be like, who is Jordan Becerra? I don't think anyone's searching for me yet, so I'm not that famous, but it works really well for big guests. Like if you're interviewing celebrities or things like that, you can do like who is blah blah blah, because people Google that all the time. And you can introduce the person, and then you have you have that post also linking to that episode. So you can do a couple, you can do one. Also over time, like let's say in 3 months from now or a year from now, you interview another SEO person, you can go back to that original blog post and add that new episode. So that one blog post that you already wrote that was linking to this episode could also link to a future episode. So you can always like beef up your old blog posts, but either way, the average lifespan of a blog post that is ranking on a search engine ranks for 2 to 5 years. So that one blog post will go out and potentially drive traffic to your website and potentially to your podcast episodes for 2 to 5 years. So you stack those up over time and you're just kind of building this mountain of incoming traffic to your website, which acts as a funnel to wherever else you want to drive them, whether it's, iTunes, your YouTube, your courses, whatever.
You're just blowing my mind. I just can't think. I feel like it's kind of like OG. It's like people forgot about like the OG, like basically, I think it's called backlinking, where like you're linking back and forth. Like this is like the OG growth that I think people kind of like threw out the window and kind of went over like just trying to get people to maybe watch a reel that mentions the podcast and click through. And it's like, and they're forgetting like the building, I think like you said, depth and momentum behind it.
Mhm. No, totally. I mean, again, I can ask everybody listening right now, how many times have you seen a podcast clip and you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then you scroll,
Yeah.
and then you forget about it and then you move on. It's we're just so accustomed to getting like information overload on these platforms of this information that like we don't remember because it's like 90-second clips every, literally every 90 seconds. And most people are only watching videos in your Instagram analytics. It says anyone that watches over 3 seconds is like good engagement. Like that's like not very long. That's a very short attention span. I think you need more than 3 seconds to get someone to actually like engage with you and buy and become a fan, and become like a part of your community. And that's why I think a lot of those like OG bloggers that built these really, really strong communities where the people that were following them and reading their content are so willing to buy like anything that they post. It's because they were actually on their platform. They were visiting their website, which is basically the world that they've created. It's only them. There's not all these other creators there. It's just their website. They're there to engage with them. It means they're actually a fan. They're actually a part of their community. And that's why they're more likely to buy.
That makes so much sense. And I love that it also continues to work for you. Like you said, like episodes that you're no longer like you've released a few weeks ago or a month ago or 6 months ago can still work for you and generate like traffic. And it's not kind of lost in the wind. And now it's like on to the new episode, on to the next one, on to the next one. It's like you haven't leveraged fully all those other probably past amazing episodes that you've done if you just would have created some like blog post content through it.
Totally. And as you know, it's promoting a podcast. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And so the more things that you can do that work for you, that add a lot of value, the easier your life is going to be, the more enjoyable being a podcaster is going to be. And also the faster you're going to grow because every other show that you're competing against might not be doing this. So they're
Mhm.
still relying on their new episodes and then they're promoting them on social media or relying on, the people that listen to their new episodes every week, which would be, their overall fan base that's constantly tuning in. But how are you reaching new people on a consistent basis? And how are you boosting those numbers from the past? Like use your past episodes.
Yeah. This makes so much sense. And is there like a length of blog post that you would recommend? Is it like, oh, it should be at least 200 words or at least 500?
So every topic is going to be different. So when we work with clients, we give them blog post outlines of like exactly what to write about, how long to make the post ideally,
Mm.
all the content that needs to go in the post. It's like basically a bullet point outline. And it really depends on the topic. So search
Okay.
engines, there's no like basic because well there's a generic answer but there's no like consistent answer because it really depends on how much content needs to go in the post in order to deliver the expected value of that post. So sometimes I would say never go shorter than 600. That's like a good rule. It should never be shorter than 600.
Oh,
um
wow.
but
I was going to say, I thought if I were to guess, I'd like, oh, probably between like 200 and 500. And then you're like, no, never less than six. I'm like,
No, never less
okay.
than 6. You'd be surprised how it's not that many words, 600, because, if you think like you have like those are short. So it adds up faster than you think. But yes, I would say never go less than 600, because that's, you're creating at least enough value if you're putting 600 words. But typically the posts are going to be like between like 900 and 2,000 words. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes. But
You're blowing my mind.
that's why our clients love the outline so much because they
Yeah.
know, okay, this is the target that I have to hit. And some content really does need to be just a little bit shorter, because you're just answering a specific question. It's straightforward. But let's say you're doing like one of our clients was kind of in like a medical field. And so she was like talking about ingredients and breaking down like chemicals and stuff. So obviously that's going to be more complex, more research based. So that's going to be, it could be even longer. It could be closer to 2,500 words. But the nice thing is what we can do is we can look at what is Google currently indexing. So what are they saying is already, what are they currently looking at as the most valuable content on page one? So they're ranking this stuff on page one. What's the average length of those posts? That's what we should probably be shooting for.
Mm. I love that you have that outline because I feel like it could otherwise be very overwhelming to like, how do you structure a blog post? Like someone's never done it, like 2,000 words. I'd be like, it's like a college essay, like again.
Our
So
outlines are so detailed. We tell you like what phrase to include in the URL, what phrase to include in the title. We tell you how to like intro the post, like anything we think you should mention in there. Um, we tell you what subheading to use. So we'll be like, okay, you need to put this in heading two, all the way down to like even we'll tell you different phrases to include in the post. We tell you what to internally link to. It's very, very
there's a
detailed.
method to the madness, is what I'm basically learning. There's all these like little things that you do with people and like the clients that you work with that help to make this a lot less overwhelming and a lot more optimized.
Yes.
Hence SEO.
Well, and that was really the goal with this business is SEO can feel technical and it can feel like it's a very like research heavy, we're doing keyword research, we're analyzing competition, we're like looking at domain authority. Like these things seem very complex. So what I wanted to do was the average blogger, content creator, coach, podcaster, they are not SEOs. So, how do I deliver to them the strategy, the results tracking, and basically everything that they need to do and take all of the like SEO optimization off of their plate? So, that's why we designed it this way so that our clients can just focus on being a creative and like putting their brain and their amazing ideas and their insights into the posts, but have us handle all the strategy and optimization.
Which to me just feels like a giant like relief of fresh air. It's like, ah, like when you say that, I'm like, okay, like that feels like less daunting to try to like do.
Well, that's the goal. And then the other thing too is we deliver everything in weekly reports. So it's very organized because bloggers get a lot of messages. Podcasters, same thing. You have like DMs, you've got emails, like you've got a lot going on. So we give you a weekly report with the same sections every single week that are just bullet point, like here's your results. And the results are always at the top because that's the most exciting. So you open your report and it's like, okay, I'm crushing it. And then here's my outline. And oh, look, here's all the work that they've done that I can either look at or not. But like, here's the documentation that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing for me.
I love it. Now you said in the beginning that you started this with, or like your husband kind of like helped, or like I'm guessing your current husband. How has that been working to, or I don't know if you still work together, but
We
how has
did.
that been working together?
It's amazing because I am not a business person. Like, I am
Mm.
not bookkeeping and like figuring out costs and all of that stuff. So, he is a like systems and operations master. Like, he knows how to do all that kind of stuff. So, he even helped me in the very beginning of this business. I was just doing everything out of Gmail. Like
Mm.
I totally bootstrapped this business, by the way. Like my first client, her name was Amy. I emailed her from my Gmail account and I just said like, hey, will you hire me? I had no website. I'm still shocked to this day that she hired me. But I was doing everything out of Gmail and just tracking everything that way. And he helped me build out like the whole system and the infrastructure so that we have like client files and everything is documented. Like I had a client recently that they had a botched web developer situation. So all of their content was basically deleted. And we had a copy of all of their content saved So we
Yeah.
were able to like go and basically re-upload all of their stuff. So it's just stuff like that. But yeah, he helped me even like price everything because I was like, I'll do it for free, and he was like, no, you have to price yourself. You have to make money. Still to this day, he's like helps me with anything if we have new, new products or whatever services. And he handles all the admin stuff. We do butt heads from time to time because he is a numbers guy and
Mm.
he is, just he can see like 5D, whereas I'm just like right here with the clients. But it's like, it's what you need. You need both in order to make it work. And I couldn't imagine it any other way. I know there's a lot of people that might not like to work with their significant other, but I mean, we're both on the same team working towards a goal. Why not have our business also be intertwined?
Yeah.
He has his own business as well. He's an attorney. He works with tons of influencers. He, does a lot of business coaching as well. But yeah, I couldn't imagine if it was just like he did something else. Like, what would we talk about?
Who are we talking about? I love it. I like you said it. You're separate, like geniuses versus like I think if you're both numbers or they're both creative, like it wouldn't work as well. Than like him having his zone of genius, you having yours, and then making that meld together and be smooth.
Well, and he managed a team of like over 100 employees before I ever started this business. And so he brings a lot of value in the management side of things too, which that I would say has been probably like the biggest struggle for me. I wouldn't say struggle because it's been such a positive experience, but the biggest area where I've had to grow as a business owner is like managing a team. I had to learn, from doing everything myself to learn how to like hand things off and be comfortable with that and trust people. And then also learn, like, how do we also create accountability
Hmm.
and, quality control type things. And then also just how do I be there for my team? Like, I
Yeah.
want them to feel like I'm there for their highest, good. I want them to feel like I support them and I want them to feel like they have opportunity here. I want to keep them if they're amazing, which they are. Shout out to my team. You guys couldn't do this without you. But yeah, it's been tough because sometimes I feel like I'm not like I'm only one person. I have 26 team members right now. And so making sure I'm checking in with 26 people and like, knowing about their personal life and all that kind of stuff. I just want to be as good as I can be. And that's probably the hardest part.
Because your team is mainly remote, right? From what I understand.
Hmm.
I was going to ask you how you create like strong team culture, but then you just kind of told me that you make sure you kind of like, it, like they're not just another team member, like there's a relationship, you're kind of building that, you're aware. Would you say like that's what kind of helps build a strong company culture for you, especially with it being a remote team?
Yeah. So that is one thing I'm really proud of that we're a fully remote team because I'm a mom and I cannot imagine what life would be like if I wasn't, if my kids weren't right down the hall right now. And that's how it is every single day. I'm home, my kids are here. We have help, we have a nanny, all that. So we have a homeschool teacher, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not like directly in charge of them all day long, but I'm here. I can go have lunch with them. And creating with influencer SEO, I've been able to create that same opportunity for people that work with us. So
Mm.
you don't have to own your own business to have that lifestyle. Like I went into entrepreneurship because I wanted to have the freedom to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to have the freedom to make my own hours, to be flexible, to maybe go work out at 10 instead of 5 a.m.
Mhm.
And my team members have that flexibility as well because we're remote. And the way that we've made that possible is we have a very strict schedule of when things need to be done. But you don't have to do it at a certain time. So
Mm.
there's like very specific deliverables on a weekly basis, and everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing, but they have 7 days to complete those deliverables for each client. So it's very, very organized, and as long as you get it done by the time that it's ready to go back to the client in their report, you're good. So if you want to work out, you can go do that. If you need to go to your kid's soccer game, you can do that. Which I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of.
That
Um,
makes me so happy. I love that. I love that you're creating that for other people who maybe don't want to be their own entrepreneur and think, well, I'm either my own entrepreneur if I want like all the freedom or not. But you're like, no, you just need to find a strong team culture
yeah.
that believes in more flexibility, that believes in more freedom. I
And it
love that.
definitely takes the right type of person. You have to be somebody that is, internally motivated and efficient and personally responsible for your work. I've had situations with team members that don't work out, either because they would, miss deadlines and let the team down, or they couldn't stay communicative, because that's another thing, is you do have to be able to like make sure if something happens, like, and something's always going to happen, like you get sick, or your kids are sick, or you miss a flight and so now you're stuck somewhere, because we have a lot of digital nomads that work for us as well. So maybe you're stuck somewhere with no internet or whatever, just sending a text or an email or whatever to let someone know, like, hey, I'm going to miss my deadline, can you fill in for me? um, that goes that's just as important as getting it done on time.
So you also became a mom with this company. Like it sounds like I don't know the exact timeline, but like you were
Mhm.
becoming a mom and building this business. I'd
Yeah.
love to finish this off by kind of touching on your becoming a mom, being a mom, running a big successful business, how you kind of like see both, because it seems like you're doing both beautifully, and like how to thrive in both. And I'm sure you're gonna tell us exactly how, but like the juggling, the making it all work, and also like feeling happy and content and fulfilled. So kind of like tell us about motherhood with entrepreneurship and thriving in both of them.
It's definitely a juggle. I would say there isn't a lot. It can be chaotic. But I just find that scheduling everything is what makes it work.
Hmm.
So just like with our team, there's a schedule. So everything needs to get done when it needs to get done. With myself and my own personal schedule, there's a schedule, and when everything needs to be done, my workouts are scheduled. My time with friends is scheduled. Everything is scheduled. I horseback ride every Friday with my daughter. That is scheduled. Their school is scheduled. So everything just has to be like systemized and organized in order to get it done. But then I also think you just have to go with the flow. Like nothing is going to be perfect. It's just all about like showing up consistently and knowing that like there's going to be days where it's just chaotic and someone's sick and you can't get it done. But for the most part, it really just is like the consistency of trying to do your best and staying with the schedule. I am glad that I started this business before having kids, because
Mm.
I will say I was like running like a machine in those days. Like I would work until like 1 or 2 in the morning, because I could, because I had nothing else to do. Now I think I would go insane if I didn't sleep. Um, and I do want to make sure that I spend time with my kids and I'm not just working all the time and whatnot. So like work hours are now an appropriate like 8 to 10 hours a day instead of what it was before. Um, but all that being said, I think as a mom, the best and the I guess as a mom, I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want to not be an entrepreneur or own my own business, have this flexibility, be able to create these opportunities for other women. And we also, funny enough, it's funny that this turned out this way, because my team and I are also very similar to our clients, because most of
Mm.
them are moms that are working from home, they're filming their lifestyle or whatever. And so we all kind of get each other in that
Yeah.
sense. But yeah, it's definitely, with kids, it can be tough. So I would say for anyone out there that doesn't have kids, if you ever do want to start a business, I would start before, you have them. And then,
Start now.
yeah. But if you do have kids, also know that it's totally doable, because, I think there's this culture that about like fast growing businesses. Everybody thinks you have to grow like exponentially, raise a bunch of money. Like we always hear these stories where this business grew by $10 million dollars in their first whatever. I don't find that to be as sexy as it used to be. I think creating a business that organically grows over time consistently is beautiful. And
Mhm.
that's how I grew Influencer SEO. It's been 8 years of just consistently growing little by little. It made it very manageable. It made it not so stressful because I wasn't all of a sudden overnight like having to explode my team and like learn how to be a manager for like so many more people overnight. I didn't learn how to have to like overnight change all my systems so that they work for, this larger scale of clients. It was like one step at a time, one day at a time. And I think that if you're a mom and you want to start a business, you can look at it that way. And, the time's going to pass anyway. So you can either do it now and eventually in 5, 10 years have something that you're really proud of that provides a lot of value for your life. Or you cannot start and not have it at all.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. It's kind of like the compound of like brick by brick. You don't realize when it's like you think it's slow, but you look back in 1, 5, 10 years and it's like, okay, look at what you built just by being consistent and doing it and just starting.
Yeah, and I look to my sister-in-law a lot as an example of a business. Now she has a product line and a podcast, and like her business has exploded. But she started blogging in, let's see, like 2011, 2010. So, and it was just the consistency. You see a lot of businesses that go like so fast and then they crash and they're done. I think when you create a business slowly over time, you go through, good economies, you go through bad economies. And if you can make it through all those ups and downs over time and just have that consistent growth and that consistent forward momentum at a reasonable pace, like that's an amazing business.
Yeah. Yeah, because you think about that, like you said, you've been in business for 8 years. When you mentioned 2010, 2012, I'm like, that's 15 years ago. That's 15 years. And I think maybe some people don't see that it's been 8 years or 10 years or 15 years that someone's been chipping away at something.
Yeah. And that's something really too about these like content-based businesses I find so interesting because a lot of the time people expect these content-based businesses to like pop off right away. And I will say you should plan on putting in 3 years before it's your full-time income. And
Mhm.
that's if you're really being consistent. And it makes sense when you think about the fact that the barrier to entry, like the startup costs for a content-based business are like very, very small, under $1,000 for the most part. If you want to open up a restaurant or, you know, a shop or anything like that, you better like get out like 200, 300, 500 millions of dollars sometimes even.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that in the internet space, we expect to start a business with nothing and have it immediately be huge.
Mhm.
You have to show up consistently for years in order for your business to become the thing that supports you full time.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned it. It's so true. Like if you were opening a restaurant, you would need maybe business loans, like before you even became profitable or broke even as like a brick and mortar.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's like the privilege of being able to start with like nothing, the barrier to entry being so small, almost makes them people feel almost entitled, I would say, of like, oh, like when you actually think about an actual business, normally the costs are so much higher. It takes multiple years to even break even, let alone have a profit. And sometimes I think people don't realize that when it's just an online business that has that low cost to like set up and start going.
Totally, totally. And this might be a hot take, but there's also there's also a trend in the influencer space that is very like brands should be paying me, exorbitant amounts. Like brands should always be paying me. I should never do like deals for trade or anything like that. And I think there can be valid concerns to that. I don't think brands should be taking, I don't think brands should be taking advantage of creators because it is a real job and it's real work. I mean, they're one woman show, one man show publications most of the time. But I also think there is something to be said for if you're just starting out, you need to create the content to grow your community. And you
Mhm.
need to have things to say and talk about, and you need to be adding value to your community. So you can either do that by buying product and not getting paid for it. Or you can have brands that you genuinely like gifting you product. You can create the content, you can be genuine, you can grow your following. And then eventually, when you build up that community, you can charge the rates that you want to be charging.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that. There were so many like golden nuggets. I feel like we were able to touch on so many good things that everyone's going to go apply. I am now going to go look into like maybe writing a blog post for this episode and start doing that. Where can everyone find you? Where's the best place to kind of like reach out? Is a website. We'll obviously put all the links down below, but there's also, I believe, your Instagram.
Yes. Okay. So our website is influencerseo.com and our Instagram is at influencer SEO. My personal Instagram is Jordan T. Becerra if you want to reach out to me there. And if you're curious about like, how am I doing with SEO? How am I performing? We have a free evaluation on our site. So I'll definitely, you can use that. It's completely free. We do a full evaluation of like how many rankings you have, how much traffic you're getting, the value of your rankings. So check that out. And yeah, if anyone ever has any questions about SEO, I'm long winded. I love to talk. So feel free to reach out. And thank you so much for having me on. This was so fun.
Well, thank you so much. We're going to leave a link for all of that down below and also the link to the audit so people can go and maybe see where they need some SEO support. So thank you so much for sharing all of those nuggets about SEO, motherhood, building a business, managing a team. I know everyone's going to love it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.